This episode discusses topics around mental health that might disturb some listeners. If you are affected, please contact your nearest medical support immediately. For Australian listeners, you can contact Lifeline on 131114. Welcome to another episode of Mind Tuning. My name is Will.
And I'm Martina.
And in today's episode, we're looking at the song Reverie by the artist Sama Abdulhadi, which was released as a single in 2021. So, how do we begin talking about songs without lyrics? And as Martina has said previously, we often can turn to the title first as an indication of where to head with a discussion around it. So therefore, let's consider the word reverie and what it means. And according to the dictionary, it refers to a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts, a daydream even, and an instrumental piece suggesting a dreamy or musing state is another part of that definition as found in the dictionary. And I would have to say that when I listen to a song like this, that's exactly what I feel and that's exactly what I think, is that I am lost in my thoughts. And whilst my focus might be somewhat on the instrumentation, very quickly I find myself daydreaming.
I think, as we've also mentioned previously, electronic music has generally these repetitive beats, which I find are conducive to daydreaming and sort of getting lost in your thoughts in a different world, completely forgetting about what's happening right here, right now. And although I wasn't familiar with the song, and when I saw the title, I was expecting something else. Something a bit more ambient.
It's definitely not an ambient song.
It's not ambient at all. But still, it took me places. I found it soothing and pleasant.
In terms of the instruments, there's a descending synth line. And it occurs throughout the song, and I found that it kept returning me as a listener to a feeling of a familiar place. Not a familiar place geographically, but rather just a sense in my mind that I was in a familiar place. And so I was thinking about, in terms of mental health, how that might indicate or reflect the stability of being able to identify who you are and being able to identify your relationship with the song. It's something that you could come back to. I was thinking about the descending synth line almost being like stairs that you go down into this familiar room of a song. And it's around the 3:30 mark where the drums leave the song and the synth line is still descending and you still return to this place. And so whilst the drums are so repetitive and so evocative in a way of familiarity, there's, for me, a greater familiarity found in that descending synth line, as I said.
And all of that, to me, evokes also something safe. The repetitive, predictable beat, the descending synth line, and the familiarity of it all. These are all things that evoke safety, which then brings about that reverie. Reverie is, as you explained at the beginning, the definition is of something positive, something comfortable, something pleasant.
Yeah. Also, when considering that mental relationship with the song, you can't avoid the context. And Sama Abdulhadi is Palestinian, and she's very vocal online and in some in-person performances as well regarding her politics and the state of her homeland. And I guess when discussing mental health and the relevance of it to this song, that feeling of familiarity and homeliness would be very important to her right now. And a song like this gives a sense of both familiarity and homeliness, but it's also such a pulsing song that you can sense there's an edge to it. And the edge might be notions of persecution and notions of being displaced, etc., etc., and the tension between being in a place which is familiar and which does feel like home and having that familiarity and homeland upended.
And being in the middle of a conflict that quite literally divides the world, you're either on one side or the other, it seems. It must be a difficult place to be and know that maybe half the world disagrees or does not back you or your views on this. Again, back to mental health, Reverie is yet another coping mechanism to escape all the hardships, whatever they are. And music does a great job at taking you places like that.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a device for and an expression of an artist who is looking for ways to express how they're feeling musically, but also find ways to cope. And I feel like as the song progresses after the 5-minute mark, you and I have both listened to a lot of music like this over the years, and we're aware of the subtleties in songs like this. And I think after the 5-minute mark, this song does have somewhat of it's a very faint, uplifting tone in the background, which at the very least you could say indicates a shift in mood, and whatever that mood might be in relation to notions of familiarity and homeliness, we can only speculate. But I was attracted to the way that the song ended.